Today, students, I'd like to begin talking to you about making things from molds. When we make things from molds, we are using plaster. This is preformed plaster that would make a dragon, something like this when it comes out. And what happens with this plaster is that when you pour slip into here, remember our slip that we make out of clay, we pour that into there, the plaster sucks up the moisture and the clay sticks to the sides and actually hollows out inside of the sculpture. What you're going to do is begin making a mask using a plaster mold like this and a slab. So let's review just what you've done so far, because this project will take all of the skills that you've learned so far. You learned how to make a pinch pot, you made a coil pot, you already learned how to make slabs out of clay, and so some of those skills are all going to come into play with this project. Now this is not pottery, this is more like sculpture. Let's just say I already wedged my clay, and I'm going to roll it out. Remember, we can just go different directions to get this even. And we want to go a little thicker than what I've taught you before. Remember, our rule is pinky thin or thumb thick. And so we're just going to go a little thicker than our thumb, because we're going to end up putting some pressure on this and making it thinner. So just stay on the side of thicker for this project. Now, what I mentioned earlier is that your plaster will absorb water, or absorb the moisture, just like in the mold I showed you. So what I want to do is I want to get a paper towel before I put my clay on this mold, and I will get that paper towel just sopping wet and put it over the plaster. That way you don't have to peel your mask off of this plaster. And all this is here for is to help you locate eyes and nose and proportions, because you can make whatever you want to out of this. Now what we're going to do, or what I'm doing here, is just gently pushing this into place. So the more kind of form you give it, it tends to want to crack. You can see some cracks right here, which is okay. We can smooth those out as we go. Get some water and begin smoothing those out. Once you've got your mask in place, you've found the eyes, you know where the nose is, you've given it a little definition. Don't push it too much. If you want a bigger nose, you're going to add clay. Now I'm going to form this all the way around. Keep in mind that you're not going to be able to use this plaster after the first day that you make your mask. You're going to have to keep this shape if you're going to continue working on it. So what you're going to do is just crumple up some paper on the inside of this mask to keep it shaped. Now here's some extra clay you get to use for other features. Okay, so what kind of things do we need to do to add clay? Well, it's the same things that we've done in our past projects. You can scratch and slip some eyebrows. You learn to coil and scratch and slip there. And here we go. So I still have to scratch and slip. One common mistake students make is that they don't scratch and slip, and by the time it makes it to the kiln, they've dried out and fallen off. So you find some tools that you need to use to scratch and slip, like the needle, but then also you can smooth that out. Combine the clay just like you did with the pinch pot. And now I've seen a lot of students do some cool things. You know, they'll stick horns on there, all kinds of things, make a bigger nose. But I want to show you a few examples right now of things that you can think about, because remember, the end in mind, you need to keep the clay, or you need to keep your project open to maybe some color. So here's a glaze for a mask. Now these masks are all, you know, the molds are all different sizes and shapes, so you get to, you know, I added some clay here for the lips and the eyebrows. You can put eyes or holes for the eyes. This has some holes for hair. It doesn't have hair yet, but this one does. Kind of crazy looking hair. You can tie that through when we're all done glazing and we're all done doing everything else. But all I did was take the end of this and poke some holes through the mask and make sure that those are open. Okay, so you could practice scratching and slipping some lips, but you're actually sculpting this as much as molding it too, because you're going to make this your own. Have some fun with it. You know, cut out the eyes. This is really good. The needles are really good for cutting the slabs. And then when you're done, you've got to take this off before this paper towel dries out. And what we're going to do is just with scratch paper, crumple up a bunch of scratch paper and keep it in underneath. That'll absorb some moisture, but it'll also help keep this shape. So however you position this, you can change that position. You know, this isn't necessarily meant to be worn, but you can definitely change the shape. Okay?